Hi, this is Peter from O2I Institute, and welcome to your last unit of your Pre-Calculus 12 course. So, on the first lesson of this unit, we're going to be learning about some basic trig identities. But to start that, we have to know what an identity is. So, an identity is basically an expression where all legitimate values work. So, to better understand this, we can take a simple example. So, let me just draw a right triangle here. And let's label this angle theta. So this would be the opposite side, this would be the adjacent side, and this would be the hypotenuse. So now let's take the sine of theta. So sine of theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Now let's take the cosine of theta. So cosine of theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent of theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. Simple SOHCAHTOA stuff. But now let's see. Opposite over hypotenuse. And if we multiply cosine with tangent, if we multiply them, the adjacents cancel out and we get opposite over hypotenuse. So let me just clear things up a bit. So basically, by multiplying cosine and tangent, we get sine. And this is what an identity is. Theta can be any degree, it doesn't matter. It can be any degree, and this still works. And now let's explore some other variations of this. So here I've got a right triangle, and we've got our angle theta, and we've labeled our sides. And now let's just list everything. So sine theta is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine theta is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan theta is equal to opposite over adjacent. See if you can come up with an identity for each one of these. Pause here. And now play. Okay, so here's the list of identities, along with some uncommonly used ones, which is basically the inverse of sine, cosine, and tangent. So like we're flipping these over. They're called secant, cosecant, and cotangent, basically. So as you can see, tangent is just sine over cosine. Cosine is just sine over tangent, and sine is just cosine times tangent. And cotangent is related with tangent. They're opposites. Secant here, it is really weird. It is actually related with cosine. And then cosecant here is actually related with sine for some reason. So like the naming is kind of opposite. So this one does not have a co prefix and its opposite does, and this one doesn't and its opposite for some reason does. I don't know. It's really weird. But that's just how it works. And these are all the identities for them. Now let's look at another very important one. So let's say we draw another right triangle here. And we label this angle theta. Actually, we don't even need that. But we'll label it anyways. And now let's draw a unit circle. So it would look like this, roughly. So we can label this x, y, and we can label this point x, comma, y. And the unit circle has a radius of 1, so this is 1. Let's label side z. So z is equal to 1. And now we can use Pythagorean theorem to know that x squared plus y squared is equal to 1. Or z squared. And now we can substitute all of these. What is x? Well, x is just the adjacent side. So adjacent side squared plus what is y? The opposite side is equal to the hypotenuse squared. This will be very important later on.